Pickle, let's go to the hotline. We are pleased to be joined, as we are every
Thursdays,
by our friend, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, the voice of the Texas Longhorns, the host of the Craig Way Show on AM 1300 The Zone, a man of many different specialties. We're joined by Craig Way. Mr. Way, how are you?
I'm good. Specialties for one man is grind for another, So, yes.
That's true.
Right there in the category. Yeah.
I do want to talk. We're going to talk a lot about high school football. First of all, how was your trip to Fayetteville?
Just the way you like to do Fayetteville, about 27 hours. Get in there, get your business done, get out of there. And that was the case. And they did all of that. It was a pretty fast-moving game, and we were able to get out of there, get to the airport in time to fly to Chicago to call the women's basketball game Sunday. So, yeah, all good. It was good. And most important for the Longhorns, obviously, getting a win and staying in that tie with Texas A&M for the top spot in the SEC standings and holding on to that number 3 spot in the college football playoff rankings.
Well, you mentioned them. Obviously, we're now approaching critical mass with this matchup with Texas A&M coming on Saturday, November 30th. They've now announced it's going to be a 6:30 kick. I don't think there was any doubt it was going to be a night game there at Kyle Field. There's obviously still work to do between now and then. But assuming that Auburn or that A&M takes care of Auburn and Texas takes care of Kentucky, where would this A&M Texas game rank as far as the biggest games in that rivalry's history? Well,
it would be at least as big as the last one they played.
True enough.
If only because it was the last one they played, until now, 13 years ago. So I do think that it would be really important because it is the restoration of the rivalry and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's big, but it has larger stakes, clearly, because the winner, if Texas A&M defeats Auburn and Texas defeats Kentucky, then the winner of that game in College Station is guaranteed a spot in the SEC championship game. So yeah, it's pretty important, and not to mention all of the rivalry stuff that is surrounding it as well.
Yeah, it's just that small part is the small rivalry between them. It's Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, joining us here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation. Hashtag TFT Today. All right, Craig, it's on to the high school ranks. And one of the things that I've been fielding a lot this week, and I know it happens every year, it's this germ that comes back every year this time of year, was people complaining about too many teams making the playoffs. They look at the blowouts. They look at a team like El Paso Bel Air, an extreme outlier in a 4-team district that makes the playoffs as a winless team. And I'm not here to say that that's great, and I love that there's a winless team in the playoffs, but the facts are that it's a bigger issue. Where are you as far as this ongoing conversation of every year? Oh, too many teams make the playoffs. Where do you end up falling in that category?
Well, I think it's gone a different route now because I think it's doing something different because of realignment. And when you've got 14 districts, what choice do you have?
Yeah.
And if somebody says, well, reduce the amount of playoffs, tell that to your principals and your superintendents, and the moms and dads of bands and drill teams and things like that. Tell them about that, because, otherwise it doesn't make, it's an opportunity for kids to play. There's some unavoidable consequences and circumstances. Certainly, you mentioned the 0-10s, and it happens. But again, as I've always said, those things kind of sort themselves out. Mm-hmm. So I never really worry about that. We've never seen a 2-8 team reach a state championship round. We've seen them get to a quarterfinal before, but it's very rare that it happens. And then it's the flip side of districts that have really good teams in it, 5 or maybe even 6, and 1 or 2 get left out. So, there's another side of that as well. So I've never felt, as they increased the playoffs, that there were too many. Cream rises to the top. We still see the best teams shine through.
He's Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, joining us here. All right, Craig, it is on to the area round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs, and this also begins a time in which we start seeing one particular kind of matchup that I know that you are very familiar with. And for some it is the dreaded, and for others it is the much appreciated. It's Austin versus San Antonio, and specifically when I look at the 6A ranks, 6A Division I in particular, with Westlake taking on San Antonio Brennan and Lake Travis taking on San Antonio Johnson. These are two pretty darn good San Antonio teams that are going to be taking a swing at the Austin area, and the Austin area has just had their number. What is the conversation around Austin like? Because I think we hear a lot from San Antonio folks about how it's a real bummer and they feel like they're never going to get past this Austin wall. I'm curious to know what the other side of that conversation is like, with Westlake taking on a good Brennan team and Lake Travis taking on a good Johnson team.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, Tim. It's I don't know that saying it's a just a foregone conclusion in the minds of many, but there are those who do think that, and until it's proven otherwise, then prove it to me, with regard to the big two anyway, with regard to Westlake and Lake Travis and seeing how that goes. I think it's as much that as anything about, well, we know what we have to do. And to be honest, I do think that fans and followers of those two programs feel that is one of the more difficult games that they're going to wind up having to deal with, because then they look at the next week, which is Valley Week, as historically it's gone. So I think it's as much that as anything. It's kind of like, look, you're going to have to prove it to us, but we know it's a tougher week than the other. That's kind of the attitude, the vibe that I have gotten from folks, at least fans of those two programs anyway.
And now, Craig, it's time for the meanest thing we do to each other each week. I'm going to give you 3 games. You can only teleport to one of them to enjoy this one. Will you go to the Houston area for Galena Park North Shore and Fort Bend Ridgepoint? Will you join Ashley Pickle and a number of the Dave Campbell's Texas football crew at the Star in Frisco for Alvarado and Frisco Panther Creek? Or will you go to Lubbock tomorrow night for a nightcap in 2A Division I between Sunray and Hawley? Which of those 3 games are you teleporting to?
I think I'm doing what you're doing. I think I'm rolling on to see Sunray and Hawley. Now, it's not that I don't think Ridgepoint can give North Shore a game. I think they can. But again, to use your phrase, I think everybody's keeping their powder dry to see a North Shore Katy matchup, or maybe a rematch with a Tascasita, that thing down the line. So probably I would say the two, just because now we're starting to get into the territory where Armando Lujan and Sunray are entering uncharted waters. How do they respond? We know how Hawley responds and has responded in the past. How do the new kids on the block respond? And I'd be interested to see that.
He's Craig Way. He's a Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. You can hear him on the Craig Way Show on AM 1300 The Zone. In Austin, you can, of course, hear him call Texas and Kentucky 2:30 on Saturday. I'm sure he's doing a bunch of basketball, too. He's got some water polo to call.
He's in Brooklyn right now.
He's in Brooklyn right now. I mean, he's just
Texas-Syracuse tonight at 6.
doing that. He's just doing everything. Craig, we appreciate your time, my friend, and happy Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you before then. And enjoy your many travels.
It is drippy, wet, and nasty here in New York, and that it isn't even describe the weather. But I'm looking forward to being home for some real football this weekend.
Bye, Craig. There he goes. Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer. Join us here, Texas football today, per usual. And yeah, the hardest working man in television.
Dude's got away with words.
He does.